Hi friends! Grab a snack because this is gonna be a long one. So yesterday, the Shadow and Bone TV show dropped on Netflix. Of course, I watched it all in one day, and now I'm here to talk about it because if you know me, Shadow and Bone is one of my favorite series of all time. If you can see my numerous copies and knickknacks. I love the Grishaverse. I've been reading these books for the past like 7 years. And so to see these characters in this world brought to life was very emotional for me. But I'm very happy to say that I absolutely loved it. I'm gonna give some overall non-spoilery thoughts before I do get into all the details because I wrote notes as I watched the episodes and categorized them so I'd remember what happens in what episode, and there's a lot to get through. Overall, like I said, I loved it. Like, there are very few things that I would change. The way that they brought in the Six of Crows characters, I was worried about it a little, but it was so good. Like, I was floored with how well they meshed these worlds and these characters. I thought every actor did absolutely incredible. Jessie as Alina, I literally could not imagine a better Alina. They're absolutely perfect. Kit as Jesper was another complete standout. Jesper's character was just amazing and Kit really brought him to life well. Not to take away from those who were upset about his casting because Jesper is written as dark-skinned whereas Kit is light-skinned, but he did such an incredible job. I think Jesper is like a standout character for everyone, and I think he'll be a standout character for people who have not read the source material. Obviously, if you know me, you know I love Mal. You know I love Mal and Alina together. Not the popular opinion in the fandom. Don't care. Loved them still. Every scene of theirs, I was squealing so much. Kaz and Nej, they were all so good. It was all so good. Down to even like minor characters like the Apparat. When he came on screen, I was like, his voice sounds exactly what I was picturing in my head when I was reading. I think overall for their budget, what they did, the show looked really good. I'm not sure what more I can say without like any spoiling. So just know if you're considering watching it, I absolutely think you should because it was amazing. Like, I'm speechless because I didn't expect it to be this good, and it's really that good. I'm really hoping that other people are watching it, that this is getting out to people beyond the fandom because I want this show to get more seasons. I want to meet the characters that we obviously do not meet in this first season, like Nikolai and Wylan. I know Netflix isn't good about giving their shows a lot of seasons, but I really hope that this beats those odds because I would like to see like Rule of Wolves. Like, I want it all. I want it all. But yeah, I think that's all I can say without getting into spoilers. So I'm gonna get into spoilers now. I have so many notes. Like, it's unhealthy. I mean, but I'm really glad I did this because I don't think I would have been able to remember what happened in what episode when I was like marathoning it. But I have it all down, and yeah, let's get into it. First, I need to go open my window because it's so fucking hot in here. Holy shit. So the show starts off with Alina kind of narrating. It's a little bit like, not cheesy, but that sort of when you're introducing a new fantasy world and it's like, this is my life, this is my buddy. But I really liked how it started with, when I was young I was afraid of the dark, because I think that's just a good opening line. We get so many Mal and Alina flashbacks and the haters aren't happy. But I'm not a hater, so I'm very happy. So we get a scene of Alina defending Mal when they're kids, and it's so cute. And we also get a scene of them being like, this is what we learned at Karamzin. And that comes back to play later, so I'll touch on that, but it made me emotional when it came full. There was so many full circle moments. I was gasping. So obviously throughout the whole series, we are flashing back between Ravka and Mal and Alina and the Darkling and all of them, and then the Crows. We get the investment line slightly tweaked, but we get it like right away, and I was like, I wasn't prepared. Find out Mal is picked to go on this journey to cross the fold, but Alina's not, and so she literally burns the map that they need so that like she'll be forced to also go, and I love them so much. And then when Mal finds out and like she comes onto the boat, the skiff, which I was not picturing right at all. I wasn't picturing a lot of things right. He's like, get off this boat now or I'll carry you off. They love each other so much. Like, And then of course the skiff was attacked while they're going across the fold, and Mal is attacked and he's like dying, and he says, I'll meet you in the meadow, which is like where he and Alina went as children. And there was just again, so many parallels, so many like full circles. We also get a scene of like Alexei running out of the fold, and I'm like, oh my god, he gets to survive. I love that for him because he dies in the book. But then we get a shot of him like having been taken, and he's in Ketterdam, and they're like trying to get the information on the Sun Summoner, and once he gives it up, they kill him. So I'm like, oh well, short-lived resurrection, Alexei. Good luck to you, bud. And then I just ended my episode 1 notes with amazing 10 out of 10. Episode 2, we get to see why Alina like wasn't found out as a child for being Grisha. And at first her and Mal try to hide, and Mal's like, don't you want to know if you're Grisha? And Alina says, not if we can't go together. And I'm just like, imagine being an orphan and like having this shitty life, and if you're a Grisha, you could literally go to the little palace, have everything you want, but Alina and Mal would rather live where they are, live the life that they have, than be separated. And like, I just don't understand how you don't ship that. Like, that is magnifique. Then I just wrote Kanej bickering. Yes, iconic. Then there's the scene of Alina meeting General Kerrigan after she has, you know, saved everybody on the ship, shown her light, which the parallels of that when they were being attacked and like Alina and Mal were still trying to reach for each other, and how it would flash back to how they would reach for each other when they were children. Like I said, I don't know how I survived this. I don't know how I'm standing. But anyway, Alina's meeting Kerrigan, and he's like, come closer, and she takes like the tiniest step. It was so funny. And then Mal is like getting treated the normal way, not the Grisha way, just because he's first army, so they're like, you can suffer, bitch. But he's literally like getting his like leg or something treated, and then he sees the carriage come by with Alina in it, like being taken to the little palace, and he tries to run after her even though he's like literally like he's like hopping, and I'm just like, the dedication, the love, the beauty. So of course, because Alina is like super powerful bitch and everyone wants to use her for their own gains or take her out so that Ravka does not recover as a country, they're attacked by the Fjerdans, which I was saying so sadly wrong, like embarrassingly wrong before. And I'll give you this, the Darkling using the cut was a pretty cool scene. Alina also gets blood on her face when he does that, and so later he hands her a cloth and he's like, for your face. But I thought the cloth was a face mask. COVID has ruined me. And then we have Mal going to his supervisor, and he's like, we have to go after her, we have to make sure she's safe, she's worth it. It like reminded me of his letters, and it emotional breakdown. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say that a lot. And we flash back to Ketterdam for a minute, where they're trying to figure out a way to safely cross the fold so that they can go capture Miss Alina for the prize of 1 million Kruga. And I just wrote, trans character? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Because we meet this character, Poppy. Not sure if they're trans or a drag queen, but either way, I was like, okay. So then we have the scene that kind of mirrors the rules that they talked about in episode 1. And the 2 rules were, 1, no crying in public, and 2, like always have a weapon. And so Alina gets to the little palace and she enters her room and she's finally alone. And the camera just like holds on her face and we watch her like break down. I'm literally gonna cry. Like, it was so emotional. Like, Jessie did so good. And then the next thing she does is finds a weapon. Like, she gets like a letter opener and puts it under her pillow. And so it's like her doing the 2 things. As you can see, I'm fucking not okay. And then we have a scene of Mal basically trying to just go to Little Palace on his own, but then Mikkel and Dubrov are like, bro, that's not gonna work out for you. You gotta find a way to get there legitimately. Which, Michael and Dubrov, I think I put their names in here eventually, they were so good. We don't really obviously get them in the books because we're limited to Alina's perspective, so we only hear Mal kind of talk about them, but they were so funny and so good. So then the last thing I wrote for this episode was Mal in his tent juxtapositioned with Alina in her bed at the little palace, and they're both like reaching out, like reaching for each other, like just like they're separated for the first time. How do you not love them? How? So then episode 3, we get to see Alina and Genya meet, and they are so cute. I loved their scenes. Their interactions were so good. We get to see Nina for the first time in this episode. So I just wrote Nina in all caps. And then in parentheses, still said she's not fat though. I will say the actress that plays her, Danielle Galligan, I want to say, did a really good job. She was a great Nina. I do just wish like the rep had been better. Obviously I would like to see it. And I just wrote, he's a greasy rat, which is something Genya says about the Apparat. And considering the journey we go on with the Apparat in Shadow and Bone, and then once again in the King of Scars duology, I was like, he is a greasy rat. Pellet sister. So Alina is like introduced officially as a Grisha. And we get to see Leigh Bardugo's cameo, and she's like being like, she's one of the Grisha, and she like hugs Alina. Like, it was so nice. Like, I'm just like, imagine being the author and like you wrote all these characters and then you get to have that little cameo and you get to hug your character. Okay, I didn't plan to be this emotional. Wow. So then we have the Crows working on getting all the things that they need to cross the fold. They find this guy, the conductor, who makes these trips on this little train thing he made. He needs certain objects. One of them is a goat. And so we get to see Kaz walking with a goat in his arms, and I think it's just so funny. And let me tell you, that goat, Milo, or was it Milo? I can't remember. MVP of the show. Best new character, like, iconic goat. We'll see more of him as we go, but like, yeah. And then we have a scene of Inej reading the names on the wall. I think it's supposed to be a church, at least I believe that was in the books. And it's like names of people who died crossing the fold, and I just thought that was such a cool little like detail to add from the books. And Alina is at the little palace and she's about to have her first like fighting lesson, and so we get a flashback of Mal like teaching Alina how to fight, and like he's like, no, you don't throw a fist like that, put your thumb like this, and blah, blah. And again, I'm just emotional. I think I have an eyelash in my eye. I'm emotional. We get a scene of Alina writing her letter to Mal, just like the books. This is where the Apparat comes in for the, well, I guess not the first time. I think we saw a glimpse of him, but I put Apparat, perfect casting, which I've talked about. And I wrote, the train fold crossing is so genius. And it was such an intense scene because it was so different, like, wasn't a thing from the books at all. You don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, you know the characters aren't gonna die, but I was really worried about the goat. I was like, are they gonna throw the goat like out to the Volcra as like a distraction? But it ends up being the goat is like for comfort, and the conductor is like, Jesper, sit down and grab the goat, hug the goat. And so we just have the scene of Jesper holding the goat and being like, so soft. So soft. And it was so cute. And then in that same scene, he uses his guns to like shoot a bunch of Volcra, and it's magnifique. And the last thing I wrote for this episode is Alina saying, you have always been my true north, Mal. She was saying how like he had taught her about different like tracking things and how true north is home, and so like he's her home. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand about Mal and Alina is like, they're always like, why would Alina do this? Why would Alina do that? Why are they like this with each other? They're literally each other's homes. Like, what do you not understand about this? For all their life, it's been the two of them. And it's so special and so pure. So then in episode 4, we get Mal's letter, which was really something I loved seeing, because in the book, we're limited to Alina's perspective, and it comes off as Mal is not responding to her letters and blah, blah, blah. But in the show, we're able to see they're both sending letters to each other, and neither of them are being delivered. They're being intercepted by like the Darkling. Then this absolute strange scene, like Alina and the Darkling go riding, and they go to this like fountain where Alina has to give us the backstory of like, this is the Black Heretic who made the fold, and he died, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, I know the audience needs this, but like, we know. And then the Darkling just says, call me Alexander. What? If you've read the books, you would know that we didn't know his name, I feel like, until Ruin and Rising. And it was this like sort of, I guess, special thing where the Darkling was like, I want you to know my name. And then they have this scene where he's like, when he's dying and he's like, tell me my name one more time, and she's like, Alexander, and all the Darklinas go crazy about it. But you're telling me they dropped this in episode 4 season 1, and then Alina goes around being like, oh, Alexander, like other people know now, so it's like not a big deal at all. And I'm just, I gasped, like having it just so then after safely crossing the fold, the crows drop off Milo the goat with some local person, and Jesper puts like a bullet on his like collar or something, and it says, I leave you a bullet to remember me. And it was so funny. Jesper has so many good one-liners, like incredible. And so I wrote Milo the goat stan account, which I'm a Milo the goat stan account already at this point, but as we see, Milo continues the excellency. Then I wrote the crows heist, because they do a little mini heist to get the floor plans, the building plans of the little palace, so that they can try to, you know, sneak in and get Miss Alina. So then Mal, Mikkel, and Dubrov are tracking the stag, because the Darkling wants the stag, and he's like, okay, I'll get the stag, and then I get to go to the little palace and get to see Alina. And so they find like its droppings as they're, you know, tracking it. And I don't know who did which, but one of Mikkel and Dubrov just go, did you pick up the stag shit? And the other was like, it's like proof. It was so fun. I love them. Then I just wrote Nina and Matthias banter, because obviously we were getting Nina and Matthias banter. I think they're probably, I don't know what they were doing at this point, if they were off the water yet, but we basically, the whole Nina and Matthias scenes that we get is just their little backstory that we read about in Six of Crows, which I feel like as an audience member, I'm like, I understand why this is happening, why we're being shown these characters, but I feel like a non-book reader might kind of be like, why are we being shown these 2 random characters? Why do we need to know this? I don't know. I'm gonna make my niece watch it as soon as she finishes watching whatever she's currently binging. I told her she has to watch it, so, and she hasn't read them. And at some point, both Kaz and Inej say, shut up, Jesper. And he goes, I miss Milo. Then we get another flashback of Alina and Mal when they are younger, and when the Grisha are coming to test the children. And so Mal can't be tested because he's hurt, and they use pain to activate the power to like, to trigger a response, which I believe is different from the book. I think in the book they just had people that were amplifiers, and they like just held their hand, and Alina just suppressed her power. But I kind of think the show almost makes more sense. And so to hide any power she might have, she doesn't know if she has it or not, she cuts her hand when she's being tested, so that it'll be like, no, like she's already in pain, so there's no like response. And it's just like, again, choosing to stay in this shitty orphanage because they care about each other that much. Then we go back to Mal tracking the stag, and they're attacked by Fjerdans because they have crossed over the border. I just wrote Mal shot, question mark, question mark, question mark, because we keep getting kind of like a scene of him and then like a flashback. So like the next thing I have is a flashback of Mal and Alina being at some army camp, and Mal gets there and he's like, where's Alina? I want to see her. And they're like, oh well, she's in the brig because she hit this one guy, and so she has to stay there. No one can see her right now. And so Mal's like, okay. He goes to the pub, finds the same guy, the same like commander or whatever, and just hits him in the head so that he's also there, just so he can be with Alina. And like, hello, how does that not make your heart? How? And then Mikkel and Dubrov die. Rest in peace to those hilarious kings. And then the show truly hurts me because Alina has come to the point where she's like, okay, I'm just gonna forget about Mal. He obviously doesn't really care about me if he's not returning my letters, and he hasn't come to see me even though I invited him, all this stuff. And so she has Genya heal the scar on her hand that she had forever from like cutting herself when she was being tested, and her and Mal had like similar scars. And so her asking Genya to erase it is juxtaposed with Mal, I believe he's writing a letter and he says Alina's his true north, and it just pain. And then we get our first shot of the stag, and she's so pretty. Moving on. So now we're at episode 5. We get to see David for the first time. Love that little emo boy. We get to see Jesper flirting with a boy, and it's so cute. He's such this like cocky, flirty bisexual. We stan. And we have the first Alina and Darkling kiss. And Alina actually kisses him, which is not how it goes in the books. A lot of people are being like, show Mal is better than book Mal. They changed him. It's not fair. Blah, blah, blah. They really didn't. Like, this is book Mal. I'm sorry. If anyone was changed, it was the Darkling. There were so many little changes with him. I don't really care. But like, look in the mirror before you speak. Anyway, they kiss, and maybe it's because I'm a Darkling auntie. I don't know. I wouldn't say I was open to shipping them because the Darkling is toxic, abusive, manipulative. I could go on and on. But like, Ben Barnes is very hot. So I was like, okay, I might be a little more sympathetic to the Darkling. The Darklings. But they kissed and the chemistry was not there for me. He really came off in the other episodes as like a mentor, and it's so obvious that he's like a good bit older than Alina that I'm like, I don't want this is weird. Then we get to see an actual cute couple having some good times. Jesper and the stable boy that he was flirting with, they kind of have a little fun, and I was like, good for you, Jesper. Always having a good time. So then it's the like night of the fit party, and Alina shows her power for the first time, and obviously the crows are there because they're planning to kidnap her, and Inej gets to see, you know, Alina using her power, and everyone's like kneeling and saying Sancta Alina, and we get to see Inej say Sancta Alina, and just like knowing how much the saints mean to her, I was emotional. Like, I don't think non-book readers will understand, but I was. So then Mal is sent to the little palace, or basically he like gets himself sent there after surviving the Fjerdan attack. And he goes to the Darkling and he's like, okay, I know where the stag is, I found it. And the Darkling's like, okay, tell me where. Tell me exactly where. And he's like, not until I see Alina. Period. So then we see Alina die, except it's not Alina, it's someone who is tailored to look like her, and that person is Marie, which again, if you've read the book, you would know Marie and Nadia. They're kind of best friends. They're two of the girls at the little palace that Alina kind of, in the books, like it takes her a while to warm up to them. She's kind of has an issue with like being a little catty. I'm not gonna lie, I love Alina, but she's not perfect. That's not really in the show though. But yeah, Marie, she perishes. Rest in peace to her, which she does die eventually in the series anyway. But I was just like, damn girl, they cut your time. And then I don't even remember at this point what the interaction was, but I just wrote crows and Alina interacting. Oh wait, yes I do. They were pretending to be guards and they were like, we're going to escort you, ha 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 ha. But then the Darkling intercepts and brings her into a room, and then he gives her flowers, which he only knew what her favorite flower was because he asked Mal. He was like, are you really Alina's friend? Tell me something personal, like her favorite flower. And obviously Mal answers immediately because he's in love with her. And I'm like, boy, the Darkling has no game. If you have to use other people to get you like, no, you're a fake bitch. You're a manipulator. And then they have their little makeout scene. He like lifts her up onto the table and like they're ready to fuck. I was like, but then thank God he gets called away. And like that scene was a little hotter than their first kiss, but I still didn't feel the buildup. Like it wasn't there for me. I might be my bias, but it wasn't there for me. It was hotter, but I wasn't like, oh, I ship it. It was just like, okay, some kissing. And then of course Baghra finds her and she's like, here's the truth about my boy. Yes, my boy, my son. And Alina's like, well shit, time to go. And then we also have the crows trying to escape the little palace because, you know, they've been found out, and Kaz is about to like, you know, get this dude. There's this line about, I only need one leg, but I think you need both hands. And he like gets the guy's hand, but fact, the Grisha doesn't need both hands, so he's about to like burn Kaz. And then from above, Inej is like, literally Inej carrying the crows on her back. Like, they would all be dead without her. And then Baghra and the Darkling have a little confrontation, and he literally tells his own mother that she does not matter. Like, I know he goes on to do so many worse things to her, but like, if a man be treating his mother like that, the signs are there, the flags are there, what more do you people need? Meanwhile, Mal has escaped Little Palace himself because Baghra and whoever she's working with was trying to kill him so that he wouldn't give up the location of the stag. And he overhears the conversation about Alina escaping, and he's like, time to track. And then the episode ends. It's one of the funniest things in the show to happen. So the crows are meeting up at their carriage, and they're like, well fuck, we didn't even like get the target, we didn't get Alina. And Jesper's just laughing. He's like, ask me. And he's like walking to the carriage, he's like, ask me. And they're like, what do you mean? And he's just laughing because Alina had literally climbed into the carriage. like trying to escape. She's like, let me just get in here. And Jesper had watched the whole thing. Like, it was so funny. So then episode 6 starts with the conductor being like interrogated by the Darkling and crew, which fine, he can choke because he was betraying the crows. He's the one that killed not Alina. Of course, Alina, you know, brings herself out of the little back part of the carriage to be like, I'm gonna run now. But the crows are all standing there like, Alina uses her power, and while Kaz and like Jesper are like, you know, being attacked with it, Inej essentially lets Alina get away because she's like, that's my saint, she's real. Okay, and so this was the episode that had, I believe, a lot of Helnik, aka Nina Matthias content, because I wrote Helnik with their wooden Titanic like thing, like they had that board and they're in the water, and like everyone's comment is just like, so Jack and Rose go to a ball fit, see? And then Mal finds Alina. They have this hug that, again, I guess I'm just biased, but that hug, the hug between Mal and Alina is like so much more powerful and emotional than any of the kisses. Like, we don't get any Mal and Alina kissing scenes, which we do in the book, so I was robbed, but their chemistry was just so amazing that you didn't need it. You know Mal and Alina is the end game. This is the track we are on. And they have that line from the book where Alina says, thank you for finding me, and he says, I'll always find you. So then the Darkling and crew are looking for the crows because conductor dude basically told him they took Alina. And so they find them and they're all like running. It basically becomes the crows versus these different Grisha. I just thought it was really cool because it was like, it was very action intense, and it was showing the crows beating these like people with powers, like Jesper with his guns and Inej with her knives. And I think it just like, it shows a really cool like opposite position. In a world where there are these like fantasy magical powers, you can still outbeat them if you're smart enough, if you're like doing your damn thing. And then we have the Kaz and Darkling showdown. I truly screamed. I like literally screamed. Oh my god, 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 oh my god.
We didn't take her.
I'm gonna have a heart attack. Oh my god. I think it's just such an interesting thing too, because they're both just decked out in black, but you have these two different sides. You have like, you know, the villain coded whatever, the villain, and then Kaz, who's more like this morally gray guy. The Darkling says something like, you should have stayed and cut it down, Mr. Brecker. And he goes to like probably use the cut, but then Kaz like has this like little flash bomb that he just throws and like disappears, and I'm like, can't get my boy. And something that Kaz says to the Darkling during that, I wrote down, because he's talking about like Alina, and he goes, it was pretty clear she wasn't interested in being a captive anymore. Yes, drag him. And then the crows steal the Darkling's carriage, and it's so funny. Like, David is the only one left at the carriage, and he's David, so he throws a book at him, and then they push like David out of the carriage and they run. And I just, it was so funny. So then the Darkling is like, I don't care about the carriage, I don't care about those little bitches, we're going after Alina. And he's talking to someone, and someone's like, yeah, there was this guy from the First Army, like a tracker who was looking for. And he has this little speech where he's like, no ordinary tracker, no ordinary girl, orphans from Karamzin reunited, adorable. And when I say that has the exact same energy of President Snow in Catching Fire, when he's like, look at that, they're holding hands, I want them dead. The exact same energy. So then we move on to episode 7. I'm getting nervous because, you know, second to last episode. The beginning is this long Darkling like flashback scene, and I was like, okay. I will say though, that was the closest I was to like breaking, because Ben Barnes' hair in that scene, so good. Like Prince Caspian, hello. Then we have a scene where Inej is like stitching her wound and Jesper's like gagging, and that was literally me. Like, I couldn't even watch because I hate needles and nope. Alina and Mal find the stag, which of course the Darkling also finds them, and then Alina tries to save the stag, but the stag dies anyway, and it was just, I literally cried over the stag. And that's like another reason that the Darkling can choke. Killing that beautiful deer. That beautiful deer. We get the quote about how crows remember people, like the ones that wronged them and the ones that helped them. I screamed. We see Alina get her collar, and let me tell you, it was not what I thought, like what I imagined in the books. Like, they like infuse the bone, the antler of the stag like into her skin, and it was really weird looking. And they also put a little piece onto the Darkling's hand in order to like connect to them. I literally don't remember that from the book, and I like just read it, so I think that was just a show thing, maybe to kind of like explain to the audience more the reasoning of why the Darkling can access her power. Not entirely sure, but it looked fucking weird. Then there's a scene where Inej calls Jesper Jess, and Kaz is like, Jess? And Jesper goes, it's Sully for friendship. Literally the one-liners. The one-liners. Then I have so many things that I wrote down from like this Darkling and Mal sort of confrontation. I think Mal is asking like, so you're gonna kill me now? And he's like, no, I'm a man of my word. And Mal says, when does your word mean anything, black heretic? I was just like, yes, you show him that you know who he is, baby. The Darkling reveals that he was reading all of the letters that Mal sent to Alina. Choke. And I don't know, this was so funny to me when Mal says, you have no chance, Shadow Man. Shadow Man! Mal insulting the Darkling at any possible opportunity is just, I love it. And then the Darkling walks away and Mal's like, you'll wish you killed me here. And I was just like, that's probably true. Like, the Darkling probably looks back and he's like, damn, if I had killed him. And then we have the king, the goat, the literal goat, Milo the goat, coming around and helping Mal escape because he has that bullet around his neck. So Mal kind of like lures him over, takes the bullet, uses it to break out of his chains, which me and Whitney talked about this. We both had the same dumb thought of like, Mal, the goat can't, the goat can't eat the chains. Even though they made a point of showing like the bullet on the goat's neck, that was my thought. I was like, Mal, baby, he can't eat, goats eat a lot of shit, but he can't eat the chains. And then the last thing I wrote for this episode is that we get the quite popular quote, fine, make me your villain. Which like, yeah, it's a cool line, but at the same time, I'm always like, like, I'm not making you the villain, you are the villain, baby. Like, you are the villain. Like, you made yourself the villain. Like, what's not adding up here? We go into the last episode, which is so iconic. So iconic. The Darkling is bringing Alina onto the skiff along with some delegates to kind of show off her power. But of course we know his plan is to actually like span the fold. Mal, since he escaped, he's like hiding underneath the skiff, like the boat, under the deck. Again, I was picturing these skiffs so wrong. The crows are also on the skiff because they're like, we gotta get across this fold somehow. Our old method is no longer available to us. And Jesper makes a comment about like, you know, if I die here, make sure I have an open casket, I'm too pretty. Kaz is like, no one's gonna die. And it leads up to him saying, no mourners. And then I just saying, no funerals. Then we go back to Helnik for a minute and they have like found a little cavern sort of thing to stay in, and they're talking about what they do next and how, you know, going to their own countries, they could never be a thing. And I just really like this line where Nina says, a place where we're just Nina Zenik and Matthias Helvar, in regards to like going to somewhere else. And it was just really sweet. And we also get our like first mention of Nina and Waffles, which I love. So then the crows also go down like below deck where Mal is, and Mal is hiding, and the whole time I'm like, is he gonna like reveal himself? Like, what happens? And then Inej just casually walks over and is like, puts the knife to him and like, give me your gun. I was like, she clocked him. She clocked him. So she brings Mal over to Jesper and Kaz, and they're trying to figure out a way out, and they're like, we need to threaten Alina's life. And Mal and Inej at the same time go, what? There's a little conversation, and basically Kaz realizes that they have the same goal. He's like, whoever isn't on Kerrigan's side is in our crew. And so I wrote, and I know people are mad, Mal is a crow. What you gonna do about it? He's a crow, bitches. All I do is win. All I do is win. Mal Nation, we stay winning. And then we just get the most amazing scene of basically Mal, Alina, and Zoya and the crows fighting the Darkling because he has like expanded the fold into Nova Crispy. Zoya's pissed because like her aunt lives there, her family lives there. Inej throws a knife at the Darkling. It was amazing. Kaz is fighting off a Volcro with his cane. Mal tackles the Darkling out of the ship into the fold. And the Darkling says to him like, you can't kill me. And Mal says, I don't have to kill you. Your past will do it for me, because the Volcro come. And it was just the most iconic scene. Like, iconic. I can't believe that I was worried for the crows coming into like this plot line, the like Grisha trilogy plot line, because it led to this, and it was amazing. I was just screaming the whole time, and I'm not over it. I'm never gonna be over it. And then Alina is like almost dead because one of the heart renders like was trying to stop her, and Mal is like leaning over her being like, Alina, wake up, wake up. She kind of opens her eyes and he says, don't you dare say meet me in the meadow, which is like full circle to what he said when he thought he was dying on the skiff in the fold. And I'm just, I love them so much. Inej lost one of her daggers in the fold, and so Alina gives her that like little like letter opener or whatever, and Inej is like, I know exactly what I'm gonna name it, and I already know that it's gonna be Sancta Alina, because we know in Six of Crows like her knives are named after the saints, and one of them is Sancta Alina. And again, it's just thinking about how Book Inej would react to show Inej getting to fight side by side and work with Sancta Alina. It's the most beautiful thing that I'm happy for a character that doesn't exist. Like, these two characters, they don't exist, but I'm happy for this one getting to do what they would love to do in this alternate reality. I'm mentally unstable. Since they're no longer taking Alina hostage, Alina gives Kaz this like jewel thing that was in her hair, so worth a lot of money, and she's like, you can have this in exchange. Don't tell anybody where I am, where I'm going, all of that. And Kaz says, the deal is the deal, and they shake hands. I'm not okay. And there's one point where Kaz and Inej have a conversation. Basically like, is she gonna go off on her own to, you know, keep her freedom, or go back to Ketterdam? And there's a moment where Kaz says to her, I need you. And again, I'm not mentally stable. They're sitting on a boat and they're going to head off to Ketterdam. Mel and Alina are also on the boat. I can't remember if in Siege and Storm they actually do go to Ketterdam. I feel like they might have gone to Novi Zem. Yeah, they do go to Novi Zem. So I don't know if that's where they're still gonna go, or if the show is changing it and they're going to Ketterdam. But they're on the ship. The crows are obviously together, and Mel and Alina are off on their own. And Jesper's talking about how this whole like plan completely backfired. They did not do what they set out to do. But he goes, maybe the true wealth is the friends you make along the way. And then Inej is like, kind of like, oh, that's nice. And he goes, I'm talking of Milo, of course. MVP. The GOAT is the MVP. We also have like Kaz being like, okay, I do have a plan for when we get back, but once again, we're gonna need a heart render. And like Nina's kind of in the background because she's also on the ship going to Ketterdam, because she had her whole thing with Matthias where the Grisha were going to kill him and take him back to Ravka, take her back to Ravka. And instead she was like, hey, this dude's a slaver, he tried to sell me. And so, you know, he gets put in prison and now he hates her again. We get kind of a last narration by Alina, and then the show ends seeing that the Darkling is actually still alive. And that's it. That's all of it. And it was so fucking good. Like, I just talked for so long, and I'm going to be watching it again like really soon. Like, I'm gonna watch the little after party thing that they have, and then I'm gonna watch the show again. And it just makes me like so genuinely happy. I'm like, my head, so many thoughts, all Grishaverse. It's the only thing I can think about. It's the only thing I can care about. I'm not gonna care about anything else for a while. So very sorry to the world. I'm really interested. I mean, obviously I hope we're getting a season 2. No announcement yet, but like, please go watch the show, stream it so that we can get a season 2. I'm really interested on how they might do a season 2 in terms of Siege and Storm and Six of Crows' storylines. Like, because Six of Crows takes place after the Grisha trilogy, I believe like 2 years. And it's hard to imagine the events of Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising going on, this like huge conflict. And then also having the Six of Crows plotline with the Jurda Param and like breaking into the Ice Court. It's, I don't know, like, wouldn't the Darkling then also be interested in Jurda Param? Would that not leak over into the Ravkan side of things? Are we gonna have Siege and Storm and then Ruin and Rising, and then maybe in a later season have Six of Crows if we get there? I don't know. I really don't have predictions right now that I can think, like, I can barely think. My brain is fried from so much binge watching and just enjoying. I certainly was not able to predict how the crows were going to like mesh into this plot. So I want to say that I have trust in these show creators because they did such a good job, but we'll have to see. I really want to get deeper into these characters' backgrounds, especially like Kaz, because we don't really see anything of his backstory. We barely really see his like touch aversion. We don't get anything about Geordi. We know he has a feud with Pekka Rollins, but we don't know why. We don't know Jesper's backstory. A sprinkle of Inej, but I would love that like meeting between her and Kaz. But yeah, overall, I'm so happy with this show. And I think it's so interesting because the show really gave something to every part of the fandom. Like, from what I've seen, Mal stans love it. Darkling stans love it. People that are only here for the crows love it. And the fact that they changed so much and we still love it is just so rare in a book to film / TV adaptation. And it's truly one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. Like, I can definitely say that. So yeah, I think I'll stop talking now because I've talked so much. Here's to getting a season 2 because I need it. And I'm gonna go watch the little after party thing with the cast because I also absolutely love this cast to death. We got so lucky with how well these characters were portrayed. If you haven't, I hope you're not here if you haven't streamed Shadow and Bone, but if you are, I said a lot of stuff that happens, but there's more. So go watch it, please. Go watch it. Go watch it. I need season 2. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.